just go back to what I was doing. Okay, I should be back up on YouTube too. Let me just grab that. 1 second, guys. YouTube. Okay. And let me repost the link. Okay, cool. So sorry about that, guys. Just had to restart my PC. OBS crashes that shit sometimes. I don't know why. I need to reinstall it, but okay. What I was talking about was prop firms. So, like, if you're okay with a lower payout cap, I would say go with Lucid first. Just stack those with the 50Ks. If you're more open to, like, Top Step's a good firm. Like, all these are good firms. Each one has their own quirks. I would put, like, if I did a tier list, I mean, like, I have a tier list video on my YouTube. I wouldn't really put any firm in S tier. I would say, like, all of these are A. I would maybe put Alpha in, like, B+, just because I have been denied payouts for news trading and order book spam, but since I stopped doing the order book spam, like, after they told me why they were denying it, I haven't been denied a large payout from them. So, yeah. Okay. But yeah, best order flow tool. Yeah, I'd say all of them are, you know, they're similar. What does Skylit show that MentorQ doesn't? Okay, so Skylit is going to show, like, Skylit will show you essentially all the exposure on, like, specific nodes. What MentorQ is doing is it's just labeling out levels with the most exposure. It doesn't show you what the actual exposure is. It also doesn't label if it's negative or positive exposure. So that's just how it is. For the volume aggression indicator, is there a specific time frame you use when looking at supply demand zone? I feel like when I use it as a confluence for entering a trade, I get burned. Okay. Yeah, let me go through that. So volume aggression, right? This volume aggression indicator, I think this is a great indicator. But you have to, what I would say is what I've noticed is these zones that have been established for more than like 30 minutes, they work well. So if you see a zone form, like this zone forms and it's only been established since 8:50, it gets ran through by like 9:25. So if you're looking at these zones, like, make sure that they've been established for a while. This one also gets run through 9:10 to 9:35. Like, it hasn't been established for that long, so it gets run through pretty quick. This one, 9:30 to 9:50, it gets ran through pretty quick. But like this zone, this one sets up, and then this zone starts to hold. This one holds as well. So here I like to see like what the candle structure is as you come into that zone. Also, zones that have been tested multiple times. So like this one sets up on the 1st of April. Then you have a rejection, strong rejection here, another strong rejection here, strong rejection here, decent rejection here, not really strong, another rejection here, and then another rejection here. So like, I know this zone's solid. Honestly, if you use the 15-minute time frame, that will probably give you better zones. So like, if I'm looking here, you're gonna get less zones painted, but they do work well. So like, if I look at this zone held initially, you come up to this zone in London, and then you reject out of it. So I'd say like, you shouldn't just be using this off just the zone. Like, you need to be using it in pair with another tool or confluence. So if I'm looking at here, yeah, there's a high volume node here as well. It's also a low volume node, like right in here, you push up, and then you reject out of it. I would also look for areas that have bigger imbalances. So this, you can see like right before you come up to this area, there's more aggressive sellers here than buyers. So when you've got a lot of aggressive sellers in this region, what do you want to see as you come up to that node? Well, you probably want to see a quick rejection because there was aggressive sellers there previously, right? So some of the zones are better than others. I'd say the 15-minute time frame gives good zones. Like I wouldn't really use this zone because it's pretty much equal. Like there's an equal amount of buyers and an equal amount of sellers. But on this zone, initially, there's much more aggressive sellers in this region. You come up to it, it's still holding for aggressive sellers, and then you sell off from that area. So I would say like the 15-minute time frame is good, and then the 1 hour. Also, just because there's a zone doesn't necessarily mean like it's going to hold. When you get these big momentum legs, it's essentially plotting out imbalances, bro. So if I'm looking at here, like what zones do I want to use in this region? Well, I've got this zone up here, and then I've got this zone up here that I know already has held. So if I'm looking at this, right, we sell through that zone immediately, we form a new one, and then where do we top out at? This previous zone, it also matches with a value area high up here. It's also near Tuesday's value area high. That zone ends up holding pretty well. So I'm using it with other confluences. I'm not just using it based off the zone. So here, like we come up to this area. This was where we had a previous value area high. And there was a strong rejection from here. So I would kind of ignore the zones that are like in the middle of the range and use higher time frames for it. Also, if you align it with the IB and VWAP, I've noticed it's really good with that. I've actually been trying to code a indicator that takes into account like, okay, are we bullish on the IB? Is VWAP bullish? Find a zone for the entry point. So it's like, if I'm looking at here, like we've got all these sell imbalances in this region, right? Initially we hold this resistance area and then price just pushes through this, right? Price will come up, push through this area. So initially this is a good rejection, right? But then price rebalances, it pushes higher. You're above VWAP as well. It pushes through this zone, it pushes through the next zone, it pushes through this zone, it pushes through this zone. So just because there's a zone there doesn't mean it's not going to get ran through. So you can see like the imbalance is forming on it is kind of like the point of it. If you see multiple imbalances to the downside, do I want to be bullish here when this is clearly trending down? Like, do I want to take this? Do I want to take this long in here when we're between the first and second band? Not really. This continues lower, pushes up, makes a new zone, rejects lower. It's also the first standard deviation band. And then you just continue to downtrend and make new imbalance. You're essentially just making new zones with imbalance in them. And I wouldn't be trying to long this just because there's a zone here, because the trend doesn't fit. Check crude and GC, thanks a lot. For gamma levels, there's not really that much on gamma levels for like gold. If you're using GLD, right, like this isn't that useful because most volume on gold isn't traded through options contracts. But you can use it. How do you get the dots on profitable? That's just the big trades indicator. So if you go to the live, and then you go to indicators, it's just going to be big trades. So if you look up big trades, it will just show large volume trades on your candlesticks. Thoughts on tenacity? Okay, and then I'm going to check the YouTube chat in a sec. Thoughts on tenacity? I wouldn't use them, guys. This firm's been around since January, and now they're just getting like, there's a lot of influencers talking about this, and some of them were like, "Yo, I can get you on a call with the CEO," and I was like, I don't really like to get an affiliate for a prop firm unless I've been paid out from them. So my only affiliates are is Tradeify, Lucid, and Alpha. Those are the only ones I really promote because they're firms that I legitimately use. This competition model, I don't really think it's like there's too many things that could go wrong for you to really put money into this. I wouldn't buy this. You have to pay for rhythmic fees. If a challenge doesn't start, you're kind of just stuck paying a rhythmic fee, and you paid for an account that you can't even trade unless there's an active challenge. They did do a beta challenge. They had like a $53,000 prize pool, and the challenge was over in a day because the total amount earned from traders was $190,000. So if you think about it, since you can run 5 accounts, right? If you run 5 accounts, and let's say the total prize pool is $100,000. Okay. Let's say there is, if the total prize pool is $100,000, then you need what? It's 100,000 divided by 200. So you have like, oh wait, that's 10,000. You have 500 traders in there, or 500 accounts purchased. If one person just hits a banger fucking trade on 5 accounts and they make 15 grand, like they've already taken up a majority of the pool. So I don't think this is a worthwhile firm to go through until like you see it play out more. So I really would not touch this firm, guys. I'm not going to promote them. I was asked to promote them, and I said no, I'm good. So like until this is at 40,000, like the competition doesn't even start. So if you put $200 in, your $200 is just sitting there and you don't even have a fucking account to trade. Man, the trailing drawdown always gets me. I'm usually 2K in profit, then lose 2K. Which futures props had static drawdown like CFDs? There are some firms that have static drawdown. It's just the accounts aren't really that nice. The futures desk did have static drawdown, but you can't buy accounts right now because they just got bought out by Top Step. So like these accounts that I have, if I hop in here, you'll see like this is my assessment account that I still have ongoing. So I've made $5,200 in here, but my max loss limit's still locked to negative 3,000, which was really nice. But since they got bought out by Top Step, I don't know how it's going to work. If Top Step introduces static accounts, then Top Step would be an S tier firm for me. What about just getting a stack of Alpha Zeros for CPI? I'm 8 months into trading. I'm doing fixed risk of $400 a trade, coming up on my first payout doing so. I just stick with that. A lot of you guys, you want a full port CPI or these news candles, and I just don't really. I'd rather just, because the news candles, anything can happen on them. Whereas like if I just find a really good trade and I size up on it, like let me show you an example. So on Thursday night, we had this clean trade set up. Let me get logged in here. Okay, so we had this clean trade set up on Friday, and you'll see this in the YouTube video. So this was value area high from Wednesday. It was also in this resistance area, and it was also value area high from Tuesday. So we've got 2 value area highs lined up. You have this resistance area, and we just had a random pop of price. So I ended up shorting this, and I just went heavier size with it. So instead of just full porting on a fucking news candle, I just sized heavier on a trade that I think looked good. And I was essentially just taking this. I shorted this in this region. I shorted this here. I went in with 20 contracts just because I wanted my TP to hit sooner. But I was just leaning towards this hitting Wednesday POC. Where does price go down to? Right? So once this starts selling off, price goes right down to this Wednesday POC. Right? It doesn't tap it exactly, but look how close this gets to Wednesday POC. Like that was essentially my target on this trade. And you can see like this did end up hitting. So I just sized heavier on a trade that I really liked. I took the same trade in my alpha accounts. These are fresh alpha accounts that I have. I just got these the other day. I took the exact same trade. And I made 3K on one, or 4K on one, 5K on another, and then 1,200 on the other one. So that 1,200, I just kind of scalped this move here. The 5 grand, I shorted 6 minis from up here, and I just held it. I was up like 8 grand on it at one point, but this big candle came up, and I was like, I don't want to hold this forever. Yeah, I wish there was more stacked drawdown accounts. It was 2 basic winning days away from my first 1.4K payout, then went on tilt in Asia session. Any advice for how much to risk on express funded accounts? It depends, like person to person. I risk heavier. For like winning days, you really just want to find like a clean setup and just take it with micros. So like if I'm taking this short in here, realistically, I only need $150. So I need 15 points with 5 micros. I might even do a negative risk to reward here. So if I shorted this here, if I took the exact same short, what was my initial entry price? 24,240. So what I would do here is I'm short at 24,240 with, let's say, 5 micros. I'm going to risk like $200, maybe even like $300 to make my 150. I'd even go to like 20 points. So I'm going to do a negative risk to reward here. And this also should come back down and revert to VWAP just as a mean reversion trade. So here, like I'm risking more than I'm actually going to make, but I just need the winning day. So I don't really care if I get stopped out on this trade for $300. Well, if I still use 5 micros, the next trade I also risk $300, but now I just need to make 50 points. So I just need to make a little bit more. Okay. Best footprint chart. I mean, it's just like all the order flow tools there. If you want to get into order flow, I would just start out with Quant Tower since it's free. I think you just need to pay for a rhythmic connection. But you know, Deep Charts has footprint, Profitable has footprint, Quant Tower's footprint. All the order flow charts are going to be the same. Can you AI your own GEX dashboard? Just need proper connect. Yeah, you can AI like your own GEX dashboard. It's just how it's calculated is different. Thoughts on the prop pit? I did see some people talking about this. The one thing I'm a little shaky on is this is the same guy who did fast track trading. I don't know if you guys know about that, but if you look up fast track trading, they essentially like scammed a bunch of people. Fast track trading is officially dead. Yeah, the founder scammed a bunch of people out of money. Scott Treist, he's the same guy who's building the prop pit. I do think the model's interesting. They don't charge you till you pass the eval, which is interesting. It's an interesting concept, but I'd just be a little bit wary of it because of Scott being a part of the firm. Are you live funded with Top Step? I was live. I did get to a live account in February. I did end up losing the live account. So I've been live with Top Step twice. But yeah, why are you not Top Step affiliate? So Top Step doesn't run affiliates. I was a brand ambassador for them. But yeah, Top Step doesn't run affiliates. Can you explain how to use anchored VWAP? Yeah, so essentially what you're going to do with anchored VWAP is you want to, and I mostly just use like a VWAP auto anchored, but if you're using anchored VWAP, you either want to anchor it at like the start of New York session or where you get like a big volume candle. So like here, this is anchored to New York session open. You could also take this and anchor this on this giant volume candle, but then you have a really flat VWAP and this doesn't really tell you anything. So even though I anchored this on the biggest volume candle and it might provide me good information, there's not really anything like notable here. until you push away from this area. And then when you come back down in the Asia session, this is exactly where you bounce from. Like you bounce off this VWAP from this giant volume candle. So you can find those big volume spikes and anchor your VWAP based off that. It's essentially just taking your total volume transacted and your average price and just like putting a line on your chart. So you can gauge, if buyers are in control, if sellers are in control, like kind of what's going on there. It can give you reasonable price points to, find where to trade to, or like where to take trades off of, but it's not always useful. Do you trade on Asia session? I do. Stay away from them. That guy is a scammer. Yeah, that's why I'd be cautious of this. It's just like the fact that you can get a free eval, it might be kind of nice for someone who's just like first starting out. I did have someone in my mentorship try them out. They did get paid out from them. It's an interesting setup, but how much are these accounts is what I would like to see. How do payouts work? Payout thresholds met. 90% profit split, 500K max capital. You can trade even. So it's a 210 activation fee on 100K and a 160 on a 50K. Honestly, like, if Scott wasn't the one involved in this, I would be open to this firm because this actually seems pretty solid. Like, you can pass in one day, and then if like you get a free eval, you just pay the activation fee. I don't know. It's interesting. Do you offer a form of mentorship? Yeah, I do. So this is everything that's included in my mentorship. I go through intro. So this is like goal setting, volume VWAP profile, statistical edge, psych, fibs, high time frame analysis, supply and demand, risk management, prop firm, statistical edge, order flow, news and macro, framing trades, building a trading system, Q&A every Saturday, check-in calls every Sunday. It's a good bit of content. I don't really like try to promote and sell it, but yeah, that's what I offer. If you're interested in that, just hit me up on Discord. How many max payouts will Top Step let you do before they turn you live? I've been seeing some people getting pushed to live after like their second or third payout. So yeah, it's supposed to be like 5 or 6, but they've been doing it at like 2 or 3. I've even seen someone get moved after 1. How to use volume profile with IB rejection. So volume profile, like if you're using the IB rejection stat, so essentially you'd be looking at, like if I'm looking at this day, so the IB rejection stat, for those of you who don't know, essentially you're looking at, this is going to be ES, I want NQ. You're going to be looking at which side of the IB sets first and which side sets second. So let me go through there's actually a good example. So if the high sets second and the low forms first, then you want to lean towards the upside. So if I look at this day, this is actually a really good example of it. So initially you set the high. So this is at like 10 o'clock. So this is 30 minutes into the session. You could be looking at this, and let me get this volume aggression indicator off just because it's going to make things a little bit more muddy. So if I'm looking at this, we're right at the overnight VWAP. We're also right at POC, and your high set second. Once you see this this trend start to change, you could long here. You would essentially be longing this here with your stop at the low, and then you can use like the high as your target, or you can look for extensions. That's essentially how you'd be using the rejection stat, just because the high set second. But if I'm playing this at 950, I have to realize we're 20 minutes into the session, a new low could form, and this could come and stop me out. But yeah, this ends up setting the high breaks first, and then you just lean towards upside extensions. You could also, instead of doing this, since this is I think this is a 1 hour IB. Yeah, this is a 1 hour IB. So this broke the high, so you want to lean bullish anyway. This comes back, it retests your POC. You could enter there off that POC retest. You could wait for this wick, and then it goes and pushes further extensions. So when you see like the IB high breaks and it doesn't push an extension level, that's typically a trade I want to take. Yeah, Top Step used to be better. Okay. Let me scroll through Discord chat. How do you get free data for deep charts? You need a rhythmic prop connection. Let's use NQ 3-minute chart 4/2/26. Okay, so you want the 3-minute chart on the 26th, Mike. So let's go to here, 3-minute chart, and you want it at 9:42. I have volume and aggression indicator up, and I want to be able to maximize my entry at 23,706. But I want to catch it on the upside and not when it wicks down. I see people on Heatseeker mention stop buys. How do you apply that to TradingView/TradeBait? Okay, yeah. So this, all you'd be doing here is, like, if you want your entry to be 23,706, you'd essentially just set a stop order here. So you could go in here, you set your buy stop here. So like as this pushes up outside of this zone, it's going to fill you. Like it's going to fill you right there. So as it pushes up off that zone, it's going to fill you there. And if you look at, let's go to the Trinity and just see what's happening there. So you said this was on the 2nd, and it was right after the open, 9:42. So you have 6:45 supporting there on SPY. If I'm looking at, let me go to this area, and then I have to replay this. Okay, so we're looking at SPY here on Thursday, and you have 6:45 holding as support, right? This is the biggest exposure node, and you're leaning towards upside, Mike. Here, yeah, this hits your value area low. It hits your value area low and it wicks. If you want to get in after this, like you just set a buy stop here, you're like, okay, I want to take this when the momentum shifts back to the upside. Your buy stop will fill as price trades through that. Obviously, like if I go on like the 1 minute, so this fills here. It fills as this 1 minute candle comes through. And then you just set your stop below there. So you don't have to worry about the wicks. So you're just essentially trading it off the momentum push up through there. What's my Discord? Let me post it in the chat. How do you look at higher time frame bias? Picking your draw with ICT was simple, but how do you do it? Higher time frame zones? Yeah, so if I'm looking at, let me get out of this replay. And Mike, I hope that answered your question. So if I'm looking at this, and this is really messy. 1 second. Okay, let me just form this. So typically what I'm doing, and I need to be a little bit better about this, is like coming into the session, I want to mark out like previous day value areas or something on like a previous day volume profile or a range volume profile. So if I look at this, like coming into this overnight session on Thursday when I traded this, what did I have marked out? Well, I had this value area high from Wednesday marked out. I had this, I didn't mark out this Tuesday value area high because I knew it lined up with Wednesday. This Tuesday and Wednesday profile, they're very similar. The only difference really is like where your value area low is. So I've got this Wednesday POC, or this Wednesday value area high marked out and the Wednesday POC marked out. And then I might even look a little bit further back and say, okay, well, this was also last Wednesday's value area high. So I would say like 15-minute time frame is good to find areas, or like the 1 hour, just to kind of find consolidation areas. And if I go into my weekly outlook from last week, So I said expecting GC to consolidate between 4,400 and 4,700 for next few weeks. NQ and ES looking for a relief bounce 3 to 5% from previous all-time high support. Okay, what zones do I have marked out here? So I have resistance on GC up to 4760. Let's go look at the chart and see what happened there. So if I have my resistance marked out up to 4760, we actually pushed above it, but we didn't really get a clean push above here. So we did push through this resistance area, but you can see there's an initial rejection here, and then it just grinds through that resistance area before it starts selling off. And then on NQ, so my resistance area worked initially, and then it got pushed through it. On NQ, what did I have marked out? Well, I had, let me actually go on the video really quick and just see like what the level I had marked out was, weekly outlook. So if I look at this, I had 23, I had down to 22,960 marked out as support, 22,960. So I had this area marked as support. Where's that from? Well, I went all the way back to here, like where we had this little bit of consolidation. I think I marked this off the daily time frame. So I marked this out as support. And then I'm going to change this from red to green. So I marked this out as support, and then the resistance area I marked out. The resistance area I had was 23 like 750 to 24. So I marked out this structure point as resistance, potential resistance. And then the next area that I marked out was, up in this region at this 24, like 24 area. So like this is the resistance areas I had. So if we push through here, I was expecting us to push to this next resistance area. That was last week's. What fib indicators is on your QQQ chart? So that's off IB indicator. Do you ignore the green zones that were formed when you short? No, not necessarily. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. 750K in payout, what's your overall spend? I actually need to calculate the overall spend, but on like a monthly basis, I'm spending like anywhere from like 5K to like 20K on evals. Because I would have to calculate the spend from 2024, 2025, and then this year as well to add all that up. I have it in my taxes. When you're using SVP, how do you know it's going to break out the value area high, value area low? Okay, yeah. So value areas shift consistently. Value areas shift consistently, like on a newer profile. But if I'm looking at, like, if I go back to this area and I'm looking at my profile, so I have POC up here and I have value area high up here. We just supported right at New York VWAP. We start pushing up, the POC is shifting up as you push higher. And then you're like sitting right at this value area high, right? You're sitting right at this value area high, and then you just shove through it. So you can use order flow to kind of get a clue of like, okay, is this going to push? Is this going to break outside of value? I mean, 30% of the time you're breaking outside of value areas. So this one just broke through on a big momentum push, and then you're going to see it shift up. It slowly shift up. So I like to use like the previous day value area high or POC or value area low to kind of gauge like what's going on with price action. So if I'm looking at like this Sunday profile that goes into Monday, I have a value area high here, I have a POC here, and I have my value area low here. In this Asia session, we push back above this value area low, then we dip back below it, and we continue to push up back towards that POC. We push above it, use it as support, try to push higher again. Then we come back down towards this VWAP. There's a low volume node in here as well. That price, buyers defend this low volume node right in here. So if I'm looking at this, your low volume node defends in here. Buyers keep defending in this region. It's also near VWAP. And then you push through that POC. You push up to that value area high from the previous day. You start to stall out, sell off. And then you obviously get that big push. So like determining when value area highs, value area lows break, I don't think it's necessarily like a good thing to think about. I more so look for like once it breaks, what happens when it retests the area. So let me pull an example of this. Like if I go back to where was it? There was a really good example of this. This was a couple weeks ago. I know there's a good example of this. Okay, so that value area low holds. I know there's a good example of this. I'm just struggling to find it. So here, like this is a decent example of it. So you push below this value area low, then you try to reclaim it and you fail, and then you push outside of it. So it's hard to find those high momentum setups where it just like pushes through value area high or value area low like very aggressively, like this day did. But it's better to see like you break through a value area and then you come back and retest that area. So let me find an example. Let me get this volume aggression off my chart because it's just too much right now. Okay. So here, like this is a good example of this. So you break through this previous day value area high. So you break through this value area high off news. Then in the Asia session, where do you come down to? You retest this value area high and you push higher. So it's better to use like the value area high or value area low when you're trading outside of those regions as like retest areas. So here, this pushes up off POC. It breaks through this value area low aggressively. It's trading outside of yesterday's value, pushes back up, tries to reclaim that area, and then it fails again and heads lower. Then you come back up, you're back above this value area low now, and you're pushing strongly. So it's better to use them as like retest points. I think that's a better way to do it. Or like here, you try to trade outside this value area high in this session. You try to do it again in Asia. You continue to fail. Where do you push down to initially? Well, this POC holds initially, breaks below it, tries to reclaim it, and then it falls back down towards this value area low. Comes up, tries to reclaim the POC again, and then it falls back lower. Trades outside of value, reclaims this value area low right here. Sellers try to push us back outside of that, and then it pushes higher, and then it sells off below that area. So I think they're better for like retest or reclaim areas. For me at the moment, I have overbalance for max payout on my Lucid Flex. I've just been risking half of my winning day, one trade, one micro a day to retain as much profit as possible because just need to hold 33%, 1 to 2 win rate to hold balance and get winning days. What do you think will happen at open? Big drop? Yeah, I would assume so. Do I believe my indicator can actually replace using deep chart for footprint? No. How to avoid going live with Top Step? You're going to want to, like, essentially you would just be cycling payouts. You'd be getting the payout and then blowing the accounts. But, like, even now, they've tightened up on it where, like, I had someone in my Discord, they got moved to live. So they cycled multiple XFAs to, like, max payout. And on their next set of XFAs, they just got moved to live. Even on like Lucid. So Lucid, I've had quite a bit of payouts, and then they pushed me to live. So I was profitable on Lucid. These last funded accounts that I had a $5,500 balance. I had 4 out of 5 winning days, and then they just moved me to live. They just immediately moved me to live before I even took the payout. So you can see like I had a big first day, and then I was just cycling winning days. I was about to get a payout, and they're like, "Hey, we're moving you to live," and it's like, okay, cool. So they will move you before you even get paid out now. Can I explain what those gamma levels mean? Essentially, these are like where dealers are hedged. So like you can find areas for like reversals or targets with this. Top Step does not have a cool off period. IB is 1 hour. Yeah. You gonna trade tomorrow in New York session with Trump shit? I've been trading the New York AM session really bad recently. I think like the lunchtime or PM's been providing better setups. If I look back at the last week of price action, if I just ran through this, my system does work. Still, it's just I wasn't following it necessarily. So here, like we break IB low. Here, we come back up to a 50% level, or 618. We come up to the 618. We head lower. Then we come back up to that 618 again. And then we sell off towards lower extension levels. This is on Monday. So the system worked well here. Then if we go to Tuesday, let's just play this out. Would I say going live with TPT is best long term? I mean, there's a lot of the live programs now are really good, so I wouldn't really like be too concerned with like Tradeify's got a good live program. Lucid has a good live program now. TPT has a good live program. I just hate intraday trailing, so I don't trade with them. So here, this is a double break day. A little bit trickier to trade. So this wicks IB high, then it goes smacks the IB low. Then you do get a retrace back up to this 786. So like I would short here, like leaning towards more downside, but you had this VWAP support, and I don't think you ever broke below New York VWAP here. And I anchored this wrong. So if I'm looking at this here, like this comes back below New York VWAP and then it reclaims it. And then this pushes higher. So this is a tricky day to trade. But if I just like look through like the last week of price action, I know the trades that I would like to take and the trades that I normally take. It's just I was overly bearish last week, even though like I had coming into the week, I was bullish, right? Like I was expecting a 3 to 5% bounce, which we did get. I was just overly bearish on some of the days. So if I look at this day, right, IB high set second, so like I'd want to lean towards upside. I was shorting this the entire time, and I was just getting killed on it. So this was what, Wednesday? And then I think Thursday, I did the same thing. I was just overly bearish. So I was just hopping into trades, just not trading my system. So I'm just going to start trading like the New York session at like 10 a.m. instead of like right off the open, just because I've just been hopping into trades and they're just not good trades. Here, like you have your IB high break. Like you already broke the 45-minute IB, and then this is just kind of Trump pump. So here it's kind of hard to form a trade. I just wanted shorts this entire day. So I was just overly bearish. So I got caught off sides on Wednesday and Thursday, but I did well on, like if I pull up the futures desk, I did well on Monday, Tuesday. So like Monday, Tuesday, I did fine. It was just like Wednesday, Thursday, I got caught off sides. I was just overly bearish. New trade C accounts. I don't really like I like Trade-Evade, so I'm just gonna stick with Trade-Evade. I don't know how you can have massive single day profits on a 50K account. The drawdown is too small. How do you manage to have a 5K day? I mean, this account, this has a $1,200 daily loss limit that I hit, and I made $9,700 on this day with a 58% win rate. So I did take a lot of trades. But like if I'm looking at like I know I can have big days here. I had a pretty positive P&L curve on this too. So you know, it's just like taking advantage. Like when you're in like a flow state and you can really read the market, it's like I'm going to like I didn't start out with 3 minis on this account. Like on the first trade I took, I think I took with 2 minis, or maybe it was it was 2 minis. I made 1,200. Then I took a 10 mini long or a 10 micro long. These are micros. I lost 1,200 on that. So I was pretty much break even on the day. Took a 15 micro long, made 1,600. Took a 15 micro short, made 1,300. Took another short, made 876. Then took another short, lost on that one. Got break even on this one. Caught a long for 2,300. And then I caught a short for 3,200 and 2,400. So it's just like if you're in a flow state, like I'm just going to continue to trade it. You don't necessarily even have to use like crazy size, but like this has a $1,200 DLL. So you know, like I'm able to, if I get a buffer, if I'm coming into the day and I'm like I know I'm gonna have like a big, how many points stop loss? Probably like 20. So like this day, if I look for, what was this? So this, what, on the 20th? So I traded 6 contracts total. I just hit one trade for 3,400, and then I hit another trade for 1,400. So like, there's just days where it's like I just compound the wins, and I bump size up as I start to get winners and start to build the balance. The volume aggression indicator, it's essentially tracking where there's large amounts of volume being traded, and then it's tracking like the moves out of those zones. Like if you get a lot of volume in an area, and then how aggressive the move out of it is. So you can see it plotted this zone because there was a lot of volume traded and there's an aggressive move out of that area. Same thing here, right? Like this would have plotted a new zone, but it's already an existing zone. Or like here it plots this green zone because there's a lot of volume traded and there's an aggressive move out of it. So it takes into account like how aggressive the move is and how much volume is being traded. So here, like this zone that plots here, there's a lot of volume being traded in it, and there's a aggressive move out of that area. So that's what you should be looking for on like the indicator, where there's essentially where there's a start of an aggressive move. So here, like I wouldn't really consider this a good zone because like it's in the middle of the range and there's a lower zone that I'd rather use. Use Trade-Evade. I just use Trade-Evade because the copy trade, like you can't copy trade on TradingView unless you have an external copy trader. What's the foundation of the trading? Yeah, I mean, like this is like the foundation of my trading is IB, bro. Like the framework's IB, and then I add the other things in to read it. Do you go against your bias? Yeah, like I did on Wednesday, Thursday. Like I went against my bias, and I didn't do well those days. Is using every indicator you have necessary? No, you don't need to use all of them. I'd say like IB is a good framework, and then a volume profile and VWAP. Like you can just keep it simple like that. And Trade-Evade's not Trade-Evade's not that confusing in my opinion. You always wait 30 minutes after open? No, there's some days I don't, and then I start to trade like shit. explain Asia on like NQ. $45 is good till like 11 a.m. Then you want to be using the 1 hour after 11. Why are people scared of live accounts? What's scary about them? I mean, when I've gotten into, and I've talked about this before, like I hear a lot of people get, like they pass evals easily and they get in the funded and then they just like fuck their shit up. I think it's just like you guys have some sort of anxiety or fear around the funded account. For me, it's not the funded that I have that same feeling about, it's the live. And then I've noticed in my live accounts, my win rate will go from like anywhere from 45 to 60%. It will drop down to like 25%. So I'm just taking trades that just don't make sense. Yeah, NQ 6 to 9 or 6 to 7. I would use like 8 to 9 if you're trading NQ in the overnight. The Asia IB is solid. So here, like if you use 8 to 9, and then you want to use Asia Tokyo session. So this goes till 4 a.m. I would bump this down to like 2 a.m. Let me see, 6 p.m. to 9. Let me see. Let me just do a custom. So I want 8. 8 is going to be 20 till 2. So this is essentially 8 p.m. till 2 a.m. And then I want this to start at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if I run this, all right, so this has a pretty decent single break rate. And it has a decent rejection stat. So you can use this to form bias in the overnight, and then you just use like the previous day volume profile. Yeah, Asia, like the IB is gonna work pretty similarly. Yeah, I'm still using the 1 hour. Would using only New York session be good for your strat? I think if I'm trading New York session, honestly, like I really hate trading like the AM of New York session now. I'd rather wait for like an IB break and then like an ideal setup. Because my RR and my win rate's much higher if I just wait for the IB breaks. So I don't really like trading that like 9:30 open session anymore. It's just too chaotic and there's the candles move too quickly. So I'd rather trade like during like the lunch or PM session. Like if I'm looking at even like here, like this is an ideal setup and this doesn't happen until like 11, or here this is another ideal setup, it happens at 12, right? So or here, right, like you get an IB low break and then this gives you a clean setup at 11, it gives you another clean setup at 11:35, gives you even another clean setup at 1. So I'd much rather trade the PM session because it's much clearer for me to read it. Here, like this is clean. You have an IB low break, right? You haven't pushed extension levels really. So if I slap this on here, I'm going to take volume aggression off. So here you've only pushed the 0.1, you haven't hit the 0.2. And then this comes back up to 25% level. I think this was also New York VWAP, right? It comes up right near that New York VWAP, wicks out. It's right at POC, and then it rejects, breaks down. Like this is a clean setup to me. Like I would short this. Once I see this, like if you see this rejects at the 25% level, and then you're right here, this to me, like this zone's going to break. And if I pair this with gamma, so this is the 26th. At what time is this at? This is right at 1150. Yeah, so like this comes up to this 653 area on SPY, and what, 580. So this is at 1150. So this pops up here. This pops up towards 583, and then it rejects. So like I would look to short this here just based off gamma and everything. Shortest time frame I dropped to, it's like the 5-minute mostly. You had to start again. Yeah, so like you'll actually see that in the YouTube videos. Now I'm doing like, I'll show you how to go from like one account to multiple accounts, trading multiple accounts. There will be a 30-day series on it. Are you trading days open? Probably not, because it's going to be crazy. Yeah, like the open today is going to be violent, so I don't really want to touch it. I'm going to be honest. Full part shorts on the open? Yeah, I mean, you can, but it's going to be crazy. They're going to start coming out tomorrow. Does it matter how fast IB gets broken? Would you still look for a trade 3 hours after session? Yeah, like I'm fine looking for trades even after, like if I'm, like honestly, I think the PM's been really clean recently. Like this to me, like this is another ideal setup here. Like you hit the 0.2, you come back up to VWAP. I would short that there. Maybe I don't take it to the extension levels. Maybe I just take it down to here. I think this is actually a trade. I did catch this trade. I think I got trailed out on this. My stop got trailed out on that. And then I think I shorted this again up here. Yeah, I did. I shorted this again up here. I think I got stopped on this one, and then I entered short again when we pushed that value area high and the 75% level. And this one ran really far. So, I mean, like, I'll trade after the session I'll trade, like, late into the session. Like, I don't mind trading late into the session because usually you have a better read on, like, what's going on in the market, and you can find better setups. So, to me, it's like trading the open. Everyone wants to trade New York Open, but it's so volatile that, yeah, you can make a lot of money off the open, but I think I'm much more consistent if I avoid New York Open. Yeah, Lucid's dropping cases. I don't know exactly what it is. Um, do these levels work good on gold? Yeah, this, like the indicator, this works well on gold. So if I'm looking at this, so this is, like this plots this area, you retest this area, and then it pushes up. You're also right near this VWAP. So like you could catch a clean long here. This runs, like if you get in after this bounces out of the zone, 78 up to 706, that's a 25-point move. Like that's clean. Here this plots a resistance zone. Like the zones it plots are clean. It's just like not every zone is clean. So here, like this plots a resistance zone, and you can see it's just very wicky. Once it rejects from that zone and rejects from that POC, like you could take this back down towards the downside. You also have your IV set up bearish anyway, so. How do you know where to draw volume profile start and end? Just honestly, it's best to just use a session indicator. Like that's going to be the best for you. If you're just starting out, just look up session volume profile. You can use the HD or the regular, and then just make sure you go into the settings and add the value area high, value area low. I have a full YouTube video on that, Charlie. So if you go to my most recent YouTube video. Do you prefer having a fixed RR? I mean, it can help if you're struggling to get consistent. Then yeah, fixed RR helps because you're limiting variability. But for me, like I don't really have a fixed RR anymore. Do you trade the IB extensions? Yeah. What's one thing you want to improve on execution and on psychology? So execution wise, I think right now I just need to be a little bit more patient. Like I've lost some of my patience in the last couple months, and I've noticed it. That's the same thing psych wise. Like, well, I know recently, like I know when I've been going on tilt, and instead of just taking a break and stepping away, I continue to like feed into the tilt, and that's not good. So like I know the trades I like to take. I know the setups I like. I know I can get to payout. I know I'm profitable, but I have recognized a couple things recently where it's, you know, like if I tilt, I'll say I'm tilted on stream and I recognize that I'm tilted, but I don't step away. And then execution wise, I think I identify good zones. It's just sometimes I'm impatient waiting for those zones to appear. What meaning does numbers in your indicator? It's buyers versus sellers. So like each of these zones, like this plots out a sell zone in here. So like if I go here, this plots out this red zone, and you can see there's 600 more sellers than buyers in this area based off the volume. It's volume data from TradingView, so it's not entirely accurate. But like you come back up towards that area and then you reject off it. So like, you know, there's aggressive sellers in this region. Here, like there's 9.4K buyers and 10K sellers. So this is sellers getting absorbed down in this region, which they initially got absorbed and then they shoved through it. So, you know, some zones are better than others. I'm mostly looking for like aggressive buy zones or aggressive sell zones. Apart from NQ, what else do you trade? I've mostly just been trading NQ recently. I was looking at gold. Gold's been really clean recently, so I want to start trading gold again. Yeah, they announced it on the 29th, but they haven't released it yet. Yeah, like the number of buyers or sellers is the quantity. So there's more sellers in this zone, and it's a bearish zone. So I know there's aggressive sellers in this region. Oh, I mean, like you won't have direct sizes for each candle, but like you can see that on an order flow tool. Like here, if I'm looking at this, I know that this is an aggressive buy zone, right? There's a lot of aggressive buyers in this region. When you come down to that area in Asia, right? You come down to this area, you get this really strong wick here, right? Buyers try to support this and then they fail and they continue lower. It breaks through those imbalances. So you did have aggressive buyers in here that tried to support price initially and then they failed. How are the zones calculated? It's based off volume. It's based off volume and if there's an aggressive move outside of it. Kind of plasma. It's not like entirely like delta profile or like this zone. I know there's aggressive sellers in this region before we even get to this zone. So like if I'm looking at here, right, we have 600 more sellers than buyers in that region. That's not a ton, but as we push back up to that zone, right, we grind up towards this zone, we come into it, and then you can see sellers are trying to hold this area and they continue to defend this area. So like you have 7.2K sellers, 6.5K buyers. So sellers are successfully defending this area. And then you sell off from that region in New York. And then I think you come back up to this in Asia. Yeah, you come back up into that region in Asia where you had aggressive sellers show up. And that's the high of Asia. Right? So like buyers failed to push past this region. Do you use Bookmap? Yeah, I do. It's volume aggression. It's called volume aggression. Okay, any other questions, guys? If not, I have some shit I want to do. So, this was like an hour and a half session. If I had to ban 5 people from Discord, who would they be? Killer Posse, Plasma, Zeke, AlbFX. I don't know. I don't know who else. Uranus and Cam. Yep. Those are the 5 people I'm banning. Juke, just go into the indicator section of the Discord. It's in there. How do you feel about using IB on energy like crude oil? I personally have not looked at IB on crude. I mean, let me switch back to just a standard IB. Let me see if it's good on crude. I actually haven't looked at this on crude, so I don't know how it works. It hasn't been very good in the last 6 months, so I wouldn't really be using that. Like if you see anything below 60% or 65%, it's not very effective. So here, like during US real-time hours, this is not a good IB. Maybe if you modify it, there's a decent IB in here somewhere, but this does not look like it's been very effective. And it's probably because the volatility's increased. So I wouldn't really be using this. I also don't know what time like crude starts picking up. Maybe try an 8 to 9 a.m. IB. But this doesn't look very effective. Like there's not really a good IB in here. I would have to I haven't really been looking at crude, so I don't know what's good. Yeah, he did, Plasma. The ATH profile for high time frame, like those zones aren't going to be that relevant though, Plasma. Like those are only going to be relevant like on a higher time frame. So like that's just really gives you bias for like where the market might head. So if I'm looking at like a very high time frame profile, then yeah, I'm going to go on the daily. And this is the profile I would take. Like I would take probably from like the last year. Like this is the profile I would look at, but then you're also not including all the volume from back here. So like I don't think it's going to give you like that much information. This isn't even loading. Let me see if I hop down to the 1 hour, if it fixes it. Yeah, so like if I pull this profile, like I have a value area low here, I have POC, and I have value area high. We've tried to push outside of value initially, and then we failed. So you've been using 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. on crude, and it works. Okay, so for Asia, this works well. So 7:30 to 8:30. Yeah, this works well. So like you have to play around with the IB. How much do I use Bookmap to support analysis real time? I haven't been using Bookmap that much. I'm probably going to start using it again. I just bought a CME connection for it. I think it's good. Like if I was looking at like last night, if I was looking at, or sorry, Thursday night's price action, like I could see there was a giant CVD divergence. So like it could have told me to hold my short, but it was late, so I didn't. I mostly just like I think CVD, like the active CVD helps a lot, just to see like okay, like this tells me to hold the trade or this tells me to get out of the trade. Um, what's the website for stats? That's going to be profitable. All the reports are free, so I'll post that here. I'm sure I missed it, but what is the support resistance with volume indicator? It's called volume aggression. It's in the Discord though. You look good, Shave. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna hop off here, guys. If there's no other questions, I see Adrian and Plasma typing. Yeah, Adrian, what's up? You hold the trade if CVD gives you a divergence? Yeah. So, like, if I look at. Hold on, sorry. Why do I have. Okay. Yeah, so if I look at this, I don't really have any data on Bookmap right now for like the last few days. Um, but there was a CVD divergence on Thursday night. So if I look at like here, when we had this giant pump up, we had this just like 30-point candle out of nowhere. The CVD increased more than the entire session CVD. So like we were at these highs here. At these highs here, we had the same amount of buyers, or we had less buyers up at these highs. Now we have more buyers coming in, and this continues to sell, like stay and sell. CVD trading view CVD, it's not like as accurate.